I was standing outside Conference Room B, watching Brad Wellington present my life's work to a room full of suits who should have known better. Keith Morrison, that's me, 58 years old and 28 years keeping the lights on in this part of Ohio. Through the glass doors, I could see my predictive algorithm up there on the big screen, load balancing protocols and all, with Wellington pointing at it like he'd coded the whole thing himself over a long weekend. The kid who'd tipped me off was Jose Ramirez, 26 years old and still green enough to get worked up over office politics, but Jose had good instincts. When he'd found me by the transformer bay that Tuesday morning and told me they'd moved my workstation, that look on his face said everything. Someone just told him Christmas was canceled. Conference Room B, he'd said. Mr. Wellington's been in there since 7 a.m. with corporate. Brad Wellington. 6 months on the job as VP of Modernization and already acting like he built this place with his bare hands. MBA from Northwestern, never spent a day in the field, but somehow knew exactly how to fix 30 years of inefficient operations. Now I was watching him steal 3 years of my work. That algorithm on his screen wasn't some corporate collaboration. It was mine. Every line of code, every safety protocol, every fail-safe that kept 2 million people from sitting in the dark when the grid got stressed. I developed it in my garage workshop, testing load scenarios at 2 a.m., running simulations on equipment I'd bought with my own money because the company's budget didn't cover theoretical improvements. Wellington was using my exact terminology too. Dynamic load redistribution, he said, clicking to the next slide. Proactive failure mitigation. Those weren't buzzwords pulled from some consulting playbook. Those were my words from documentation I'd written by hand before typing it up in proper reports. I pulled out my phone and checked the system logs. Someone had accessed my secure partition at 3:47 a.m. from Wellington's login credentials. The timestamp told the whole story. While I was asleep, he was copying 3 years of work and getting ready to present it as his own innovation. The funny thing about working with electrical systems for 28 years is you learn to think in circuits. Every system has a source, a load, and a path between them. Wellington thought he was the source now feeding power to corporate headquarters, but he'd tapped into my circuit without understanding what he was stealing. And in electrical work, when you don't understand the load requirements, things tend to catch fire. Through the glass, I could see Wellington moving to his next slide. Grid stability matrices. Demand forecasting models, the system that could predict failures 72 hours in advance and prevent cascade blackouts before they started. All of it mine. All of it presented like Wellington's team had developed it from scratch. I'd started at this company 28 years ago as a field technician. Climbed poles in ice storms, crawled through substations in 100-degree heat, learned every piece of equipment from the ground up. When computers started taking over grid management, I taught myself programming because nobody else was going to protect the reliability I'd spent decades building. The algorithm wasn't just code to me. It was 28 years of understanding how electricity actually moves through wires, how transformers really behave under stress, how the whole system holds together when physics tries to tear it apart. Wellington had never climbed a pole, never felt a transformer hum through his boots when it was running near capacity, never stood in a control room at 3 a.m. watching load numbers climb toward the red zone, knowing that one wrong decision could kill the lights for 500,000 people. But there he was, presenting my work like he understood what it really meant. I opened my tablet and pulled up the original development files. Every modification time-stamped and documented, June 2021 through March 2024. Almost 3 years of late nights and weekend testing. The algorithm that had prevented 4 major blackouts in the past 18 months by redistributing load before the system could cascade into failure. That's when I noticed something that made my blood pressure spike. Wellington hadn't just stolen my algorithm, he'd modified it. The safety thresholds were different. The failure buffers I'd built in to prevent overload during peak demand had been reduced. He'd taken the efficiency improvements and stripped out the protections that kept the system from burning itself down. In electrical work, there's always tension between efficiency and safety. You can push a system to 100% capacity, but when something unexpected happens, you've got nowhere to go. The safety margins I'd built into the algorithm weren't padding. They were insurance against the day when everything goes wrong at once. Wellington's modifications removed that insurance. His version would squeeze every amp of efficiency out of the grid, right up until the moment it failed catastrophically. I closed my tablet and walked back to my truck. Pulled out my thermos of coffee and sat there thinking about what I'd just seen. In 6 weeks, we'd hit peak summer demand. Air conditioners running full blast across 3 counties. The grid stressed to its limits. With Wellington's modifications, we'd be one heat wave away from the kind of blackout that kills people. That's when I called Diana Foster, the federal energy inspector who'd been working with us on infrastructure modernization. Diana and I went back 15 years. She knew real engineering when she saw it, and she didn't have patience for corporate games when public safety was involved. Keith, she answered on the second ring. What's going on, Diana? I need to ask you something about that presentation Wellington's giving today, the grid optimization system. Did he tell you who actually developed it? There was a pause on the other end. He said it was a collaborative effort by his modernization team. Why? Because that algorithm is mine. 3 years of work. And Diana, he's modified it in ways that could cause cascade failures. Another pause, longer this time. I could hear her typing on the other end. Keith, you sure about this? Check the metadata on those files he's presenting. Check the original development logs in my secure partition. And Diana, the modifications he's made to my algorithm are dangerous. The failure thresholds are set too high. How dangerous. I looked out at the power lines running past the parking lot, humming their steady 60-cycle song. Dangerous enough to cause cascading failures if we hit peak demand during a heat wave. We're talking about potential blackouts across 3 counties. The line went quiet except for more typing. Diana Foster didn't mess around when it came to grid reliability. She'd been investigating power system failures since the Northeast blackout of 2003, and the idea of someone playing Russian roulette with critical infrastructure made her very unhappy. I'll be there in 20 minutes, she said. I spent those 20 minutes in my truck going through every file on my tablet, development logs, test results, safety calculations. All of it time-stamped under my credentials, all of it documented with the kind of obsessive detail you learn when you're responsible for keeping the lights on for 2 million people. Every late-night modification, every weekend test run, every scenario I'd simulated to make sure the system could handle whatever the weather or the economy threw at it. Wellington had copied the efficiency algorithms but missed the safety protocols. The parts of the code that kept the system from cannibalizing itself during high-stress periods. He'd seen the performance improvements and ignored the insurance policies that made them safe to implement. It was like taking the brakes off a car because they create drag. Sure, you'll go faster, but good luck stopping when you need to. The worst part was watching him present it to people who should have known better. Regional Power Authority board members, federal infrastructure coordinators, corporate executives who signed the checks but never spent time in substations. They were eating it up because Wellington had the presentation skills and the MBA vocabulary to make dangerous modifications sound like breakthrough innovations. I'd never been good at corporate presentations. Give me a room full of technicians, and I could explain load balancing until their eyes glazed over. But put me in front of suits who measured everything in quarterly reports, and I clammed up. Wellington knew that. He'd probably counted on it. Diana's federal vehicle pulled into the lot just as Wellington's presentation was hitting its stride. She stepped out wearing that expression she got when someone had potentially screwed with public safety. All business, no small talk badge visible on her jacket. She walked straight into that conference room like she owned it. I followed about 10 steps behind, close enough to hear but not close enough to look like I was orchestrating anything. "Excuse me," Diana said. The room went quiet like someone had pulled a circuit breaker. "I need to speak with whoever developed the grid optimization algorithm you just presented." Wellington's confident smile flickered for just a second. "That would be my modernization team. We've been working on this project for months. I need to see the original development documentation, all of it, from the person who actually wrote the code." "Of course," Wellington said, recovering his composure. "I'll have someone pull that together for you." "No," Diana said, and her voice had that federal authority edge that made even VPs pay attention. "I need it now." From the primary developer, that's when I stepped into the room. Didn't wait for an invitation, didn't knock. Just opened the door and walked in like I belonged there. "That would be me," I said. You could feel the air pressure drop. Wellington's face went through about 5 different expressions in 3 seconds, landing somewhere between panic and damage control. "Keith," he said, trying to sound casual, "I was just presenting our collaborative work on the optimization project." Collaborative. I set my tablet on the conference table. "Diana, you want to see the original files? Here they are. Development started June 2021. Final testing completed March 2024. All under my login credentials. All on my own time." Diana leaned over to look at the screen. "And these modifications that Mr. Wellington presented? I scrolled through the code differences made yesterday morning at 3:47 a.m. without authorization and without understanding what they actually do to system stability, which is remove the safety buffers that prevent cascade failures during peak load conditions. The silence in that room was the kind that makes fluorescent lights sound like jet engines. One of the board members shifted in his seat. Someone's pen clicked. Wellington tried to say something, but Diana held up her hand. "Mr. Wellington," she said, "I need you to show me your original development documentation for this algorithm. The team effort. It was collaborative, yes or no? Do you have development files showing you created this system?" Wellington looked around the room like someone might throw him a life preserver. The corporate sponsors, the board members, even his own staff were suddenly very interested in their laptops and notepads. "The system has been thoroughly tested," he said finally. "With the safety protocols removed," I asked, "the efficiency improvements meet all current standards." "Which standards?" Diana pulled out a folder I hadn't seen before. "Because according to federal infrastructure reliability guidelines, any modifications to critical grid management systems require safety impact assessments and approval from the primary developer." I opened another screen on my tablet. "Diana, look at this load simulation. With Wellington's modifications, if we hit 95% demand during a summer heat wave, the system will attempt to redistribute power faster than the physical infrastructure can handle. We're talking transformer overloads, circuit breaker failures, cascade blackouts across the entire service area." Diana studied the simulation results. "How long until peak season?" "6 weeks. Her expression went from serious to grim. "Mr. Wellington, you're going to explain to me exactly how you access proprietary algorithms without authorization and why you modified critical safety systems without proper oversight." Wellington tried the corporate double-talk routine, innovation and modernization and efficiency initiatives. Diana let him finish, then opened her folder to a document that made Wellington's face go white. "According to federal infrastructure regulations," Diana said, reading from the document, "unauthorized modification of critical grid management systems constitutes a Class C violation. Falsification of engineering credentials during federal review constitutes a Class B violation." She looked up at Wellington. "Furthermore, Mr. Morrison's algorithm is registered as proprietary intellectual property under federal infrastructure protection guidelines. Unauthorized use without attribution constitutes theft of critical infrastructure technology." The room was so quiet, you could hear the air conditioning cycling on and off. Wellington's confident smile had completely disappeared. One of the corporate sponsors cleared his throat nervously. "I think," Diana continued, "we need to have a much longer conversation. Mr. Wellington, I'll need you to remain available for additional questions." I gathered up my tablet and headed for the door, stopped and turned back to address the room. "For what it's worth," I said, "the original algorithm works exactly as designed. It's prevented 4 blackouts in the past 18 months, but safety systems only work if you don't remove them to boost efficiency numbers." I walked out of that conference room knowing I'd probably just ended Wellington's career, but more importantly, I'd prevented what could have been a disaster that killed people. In my line of work, keeping the lights on isn't just about comfort. Hospitals run on electricity, traffic lights, emergency services, water treatment plants. When the grid fails, people die. 2 days later, the company memo came out. Brad Wellington was stepping down to pursue other opportunities in the private sector. The grid optimization project was being re-evaluated under original engineering specifications. Corporate speak for we almost got sued by the federal government. Deanna called me that afternoon while I was checking readings on Transformer Bank 7, a routine I'd been doing for so many years I could spot problems by the sound of the equipment humming. "Keith," she said, "the Federal Review Board wants you to present the real algorithm to Congress. Full attribution, complete technical explanation. They want to understand how close we came to a major infrastructure failure." I said yes without hesitation. Not because I wanted to be in the spotlight, but because Congress needed to understand that grid reliability isn't something you can optimize away with MBA theories and efficiency consultants. The congressional hearing was scheduled for the following week. Subcommittee on Energy and Infrastructure, chaired by a senator from Texas who'd lived through enough blackouts to take grid reliability seriously. Real engineers asking real questions about keeping the power on for 300 million Americans. I spent the weekend preparing my presentation, but not the way Wellington would have. No fancy graphics or corporate buzzwords, Just technical facts about how the electrical grid actually works, why safety margins matter, and what happens when you try to squeeze efficiency out of systems that were designed for reliability. The night before the hearing, my wife Lisa found me in the garage workshop going over my notes one more time. We'd been married 32 years, and she'd learned to read my moods better than any voltage meter could read electrical current. "You nervous about tomorrow?" she asked. "Not nervous," I said, adjusting the multimeter I always carried out of habit. "Just want to make sure I explain it right. These people need to understand that the grid isn't a spreadsheet. It's physics. You've been explaining electricity to people for 28 years, she said. Tomorrow won't be any different, but it was different. The hearing room was bigger than any conference room I'd ever been in, with cameras and reporters, and the kind of formal atmosphere that makes even simple questions sound important. I sat at the witness table with my folder of technical documents and my tablet full of simulation data, watching senators and representatives file in with their staff assistants and briefing papers. The committee chairman introduced me with my full credentials: 28 years with the Ohio Regional Power Authority, developer of predictive grid management algorithms, holder of 3 patents related to load balancing technology. Hearing it read out loud like that made me realize how much I'd actually accomplished over the years, building systems that most people never thought about but absolutely depended on. "Mr. Morrison," the chairman said, "please explain to the committee exactly what happened with your algorithm and why Congress should be concerned." I took a breath and started where I always started when explaining electrical systems, with the basics. Senators, the electrical grid is like a giant machine with millions of moving parts. Every air conditioner, every factory, every hospital draws power from the same interconnected system. My algorithm predicts when that system is getting stressed and moves power around automatically to prevent failures. I clicked to my first slide, showing a simplified grid map. The key word is automatically. When demand spikes on a hot day, the system has maybe 15 minutes to redistribute load before transformers start overloading. Human operators can't react fast enough, so the computer has to make those decisions. "And Mr. Wellington modified your system how?" asked the senator from California. "He removed the safety buffers, the parts of the algorithm that leave room for unexpected problems. I showed them the simulation Wellington had ignored. With his modifications, the system would run at maximum efficiency until something went wrong. Then it would fail catastrophically." "Define catastrophically," said the representative from Florida. I pulled up the cascade failure model. Blackouts affecting 15 million people. The kind that take days to restore because the system damages itself during the failure. The room got very quiet. These were people who understood that keeping the lights on was a matter of national security, economic stability, and public health all rolled into one. "Mr. Morrison," the chairman said, "in your professional opinion, how close did we come to this scenario?" I checked my notes, though I knew the numbers by heart. 6 weeks. Peak summer demand was 6 weeks away when the modifications were discovered. If we'd implemented Mr. Wellington's version and hit a heat wave, we would have seen cascade failures across multiple states. The hearing continued for 2 hours. Technical questions about load balancing, safety protocols, federal oversight of critical infrastructure. Real questions from people who understood that electricity isn't magic, it's engineering, and engineering requires respect for physics, whether corporate executives like it or not. Afterward, a congressman from Texas shook my hand and said something that stuck with me. "Son, people like you are why this country still works. We need more engineers and fewer consultants making decisions about critical infrastructure." The promotion came through the following week. Chief Technical Officer, a position the company had never had before but suddenly realized they needed. First time in company history they'd created that role for someone who started climbing poles and worked their way up through every level of the system. Jose stopped by my new office on my first day with the bigger title. The kid looked impressed by the nameplate on the door, but I could tell he had something on his mind. "So what happens now?" he asked. I looked out the window at the transformer yard where I'd spent most of my career. Same equipment, humming the same 60-cycle song. But now I had the authority to make sure it kept humming reliably for the next 28 years. "Now we make sure the lights stay on," I said, "and we teach the next generation how to do it right." Even after what happened with Wellington, especially after what happened with Wellington, I opened my laptop and started typing. New safety protocols for critical infrastructure modifications. Mandatory field experience requirements for anyone touching grid management systems. Protection guidelines for proprietary algorithms developed by company engineers. the kind of boring paperwork that prevents corporate cowboys from gambling with other people's electricity. But the most important change was the mentorship program. Every new hire, from MBA to entry-level technician, would spend their first 6 months learning from field engineers who understood how the system actually worked. No more Wellington-style consultants showing up with theories they'd never tested on real equipment with real consequences. Jose was my first official mentee. Smart kid, good instincts, willing to learn from people who'd been doing this longer than he'd been alive. I started him with the basics: how to read transformer load indicators, what different equipment sounds meant, why you never bypass safety systems even when efficiency consultants tell you it's wasteful. The grid doesn't care about your MBA, I told him on our first field visit to Substation 12. It cares about physics. Respect the physics and the system will keep working. Try to outsmart physics and people sit in the dark. The industry article about the Wellington incident ran 3 weeks later. Grid management theft highlights infrastructure vulnerability was the headline in Power Engineering magazine. They didn't name names, just called it a case study in the importance of protecting critical algorithms and maintaining proper oversight of system modifications. The article quoted Diana Foster. This incident demonstrates why federal infrastructure protection guidelines exist. When you're responsible for keeping the lights on for millions of people, there's no room for shortcuts or unauthorized modifications. Wellington's name never appeared in the article, but everyone in the industry knew what had happened. Word travels fast in the power business, and stealing someone else's work is the kind of reputation killer that follows you from job to job. Last I heard, he was selling insurance in Phoenix. 6 months later, we hit the hottest summer on record. Air conditioning demand spiked to levels that would have stressed even my original algorithm, but the system held. Load redistribution worked exactly as designed, moving power around automatically as demand peaked and cooled, keeping the grid stable while half the state cranked their thermostats down to 68 degrees. During the worst heat wave, when we hit 98% of capacity for 3 straight days, I sat in the control room watching my algorithm work. Numbers flowing across screens, power moving invisibly through hundreds of miles of wire. Millions of people staying cool without ever thinking about the system that made it possible. Look at that, Jose said, pointing at the load distribution display. It's like the grid is thinking. It is thinking, I said. It's thinking with 28 years of experience and every safety protocol we could build into it. If Wellington's modified version had been running, we would have had cascade failures on day 1 of that heat wave. Transformers overloading, circuit breakers tripping, blackouts rolling across the service area like dominoes. Instead, the grid held steady, redistributing load automatically, keeping the power flowing to hospitals and homes and businesses that depended on it. That's when I understood what my real job was. Not just keeping the lights on today, but making sure they stayed on tomorrow and next year and 20 years from now, when Jose would be the one sitting in the control room, watching over a system that worked because people before him had built it right. The congressional testimony led to new federal guidelines for critical infrastructure protection, mandatory oversight for any modifications to grid management systems, required field experience for anyone in decision-making roles, legal protections for engineers who develop proprietary algorithms on company time. My algorithm is still running, still preventing blackouts, still keeping 2 million people connected to reliable electricity. The difference is that now everyone knows who built it and why the safety systems matter. No more corporate consultants trying to optimize away the protections that keep the grid from eating itself. I kept the multimeter, old habit from 28 years of checking voltage and current, but also a reminder that electricity is real, physical, measurable. It's not a spreadsheet or a quarterly report or an efficiency metric. It's electrons moving through copper wire, following laws of physics that don't care about corporate politics or MBA theories. Every morning I check the overnight reports, load levels, equipment status, any anomalies the system flagged for human attention. The grid hummed through another night, automatically balancing supply and demand, quietly doing its job while everyone slept. Jose handles more of the day-to-day operations now, but he still stops by when something doesn't look right. Good instincts getting better with experience. The next generation learning to respect the system while improving it safely. Outside my window, the power lines stretch toward the horizon, carrying electricity to people who flip switches without thinking about transformers or load balancing or cascade failure prevention. That's exactly how it should be. The system working so reliably that it becomes invisible. The grid hums steady, the load stays balanced, the lights stay on. just like they should. Sometimes the best revenge isn't making noise. It's letting the system work exactly the way you built it. While everyone else learns the hard way that experience beats credentials every single time. In a world full of people trying to optimize away the wisdom that keeps things running. The real power belongs to those who understand that reliability isn't sexy, but it's what separates civilization from chaos.